Wait.
Irritable bowel syndrome, complete nonsense, by the way.
I have IBS. How dare you? That is so offensive. If I told you he was right, how mad are you gonna get? Mad? Okay. He's right. Let's get into it. Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Trauma Pond HQ. My name's Olivia and this is where we sit by the pond and we have a little chat. I was actually looking to record about psychology and the scam that I've been talking about for quite some time, but Candace Owens beat me to it. She did go in a different direction to what I was doing, but yes, I've been saying for such a long time, psychology is a scam. This was so much more obvious the day that I started, and unfortunately, because I see such harm in psychology, I'm not really comfortable keeping on going. Even though I do believe that psychology has got its place, I'm definitely a testament to that. I've changed so much since I started going to therapy. And I'm pretty sure even Candace would not disagree with the fact that psychology has definitely got a place within science. The only thing is that the field is so corrupt that you can't sieve through the BS to know what is right, what is wrong, and who is going to help you. But instead of dwelling on the fact that she beat me to it and obviously did a much better job because she's been doing this an awful lot longer than I have, plus she's an excellent researcher, I decided that I would share something with you that I was shocked to learn when I first started studying psychology. And if you saw the intro to this, you were pretty shocked for me to say it's true. Because to say that I was so angry when I found this out, it's an understatement. But it actually showed just how corrupt the system truly is. So if you want to learn more about why IBS is absolute cock and bull, you're going to want to hear this because it's shocking. Hey guys, if you're enjoying the episodes of Trauma Pond HQ, do a little favor for me and hit that like button for this video, subscribe to the channel, and ring that notification bell so that you don't miss another episode. All right, back to the rest of it. Okay. So I'll start by saying this. I have IBS myself. I started getting the symptoms when I was about 4 years old. I didn't get diagnosed with IBS until I was 23. And when they told me that I had IBS, I didn't buy it. I didn't take it. I thought there's no way my symptoms are this bad from something that they don't know what causes it.
Bro, what are you talking about, man?
So to start from the beginning, which is always a very good place to start, when I was 4 and started getting symptoms, I actually suffered with constipation. Very, very severe constipation. When I say my constipation was severe, it was not uncommon for me to go to the bathroom for a bowel movement twice a month. That was pretty normal for me. When I say constipation was bad, it was pretty bad. Now you're probably thinking, oh, well, that didn't last very long. It lasted until I was 16 and it was severe. If there was ever a time that I went to the bathroom more than twice in 1 week, I thought something was very, very wrong. Didn't matter how good it felt. I only started opening up and talking about this about 2 years ago when I first told a friend of mine who was a nurse. I was telling her about the situation of my childhood and how I used to, for lack of a better word, I could not control my bowels and my constipation was so bad it caused me to shit myself on a regular basis. Yeah, my symptoms were horror show. As a matter of fact, I told my story on TikTok last year and it didn't do too badly. A lot of people were laughing at the story, which I don't care. You can laugh at any story. I'm putting myself out there only for the fact that I know that I cannot be the only person in the world that has had this illness. And that was the thought process that went through my mind when I was thinking, should I share this story? And I'm very glad that I did because the amount of people that it turned out had the exact same thing. And yet I have never heard anyone talk about this. Well, this is the power of narcissism. And you're going to see why in a moment. Now, when I was telling my friend that my constipation was so severe that I would shit myself, and for all I could really count it to be, it was that it was causing anal leakage. I'm only cringing right now because I don't know what I can and can't say on YouTube. My friend actually said that this particular symptom is called overflow. And she said it was pretty severe because anyone that can end up suffering with this can end up with Crohn's disease. And she's actually very shocked that I didn't end up with Crohn's disease considering how long I had these symptoms for. The saddest part of all of this is that I could not get the help that I needed because even though my symptoms were very shameful and my mother was very, very sick of it, she did not tell the doctors ever what was actually happening with me. She only said that I was suffering from constipation. The amount of different medicines that I went through in my childhood to help with my constipation was phenomenal. And if anything, they made the situation so much worse. Now, you're probably thinking, well, it couldn't have been that bad. When I say I used to poop my pants, I really want to say shit myself, but I just don't know what I'm going to get away with on YouTube. Especially for my channel being so small, I just don't want to get taken down or anything, even though this is genuine stories and there is nothing satire about anything that I'm saying here. There's nothing bad about anything I'm saying here. This is true life experience. And of course, I want to share this because I know that there are so many people out there that don't realize this is a big problem. And I guarantee I am one of millions of people that have this particular problem. I'm realizing the thumbnail's gonna have to have me in it. So as I said, this was exceptionally regular. Very rarely did I have weeks where I didn't actually soil myself. And by the way, this is an excruciating thing to go through, especially as a child. I would collapse off the toilet. I remember one time I collapsed going up the stairs. I had to take the day off school because my stomach was so unbelievably sore and swollen. And then I collapsed going up the stairs because I was in so much pain. And that's one of many trips that I had to have to the hospital. So I was hospitalized quite a bit for my constipation and nothing could be done. You're probably wondering what happened that it stopped when I was 16. Well, I moved out of my house when I was 16. I went to a college where I was safer there than being at home, which says an awful lot because I was sexually assaulted at my college for 2 years. That tells you an awful lot about my home life.
That's fucked up.
When I was 22, my symptoms got so much worse because I ended up in a relationship with a grossly narcissistic man who was so unbelievably abusive. He triggered my IBS symptoms to put me in hospital. When I say my symptoms were so severe with this particular narcissist, I lost 25 kilos in 6 weeks. Could not function without painkillers because the pain in my stomach was so unbelievably severe. During that time, they also misdiagnosed me twice with Crohn's disease. This is also a story to show that only psychopaths can be surgeons. The second that we did one particular test to try and understand why I was in so much pain, I had just gotten back to the ward after having this test. The surgeon came straight through the room. I'd only been there 5 minutes after getting this test done, and he said, "Oh, we have to do surgery on you because you've got Crohn's disease." Thank the Lord that there was another surgeon there who had common sense and said, "No, we have to run another test." I've never had surgery. I never ever want to have surgery. But if it wasn't for that doctor contradicting the surgeon, they would have done exploratory surgery for no reason. I consider that to be one of the luckiest escapes. God only knows what they would have done.
I know I'm supposed to cut something, but what? And where?
For those of you who have been following me from the beginning, you know that the person in my life that has caused me the most distress is my mother. My mother is a covert narcissist. A lot of professionals, such as psychologists and lawyers, do say that dealing with a covert narcissist is the hardest one to deal with because they're the most deceitful. You can't really pick them very easily. I mean, I can. I can tell from a picture. I can tell from how they enter a room. They all have the exact same walk and they all have the exact same approach. It's kind of bad that I would say I would choose sexual assault over being near my mother. A lot of you are probably thinking, what has this got anything to do with my mother? Well, in psychology, one of the first things that we were learning was about consciousness and how we have different forms of consciousness. In the idea of consciousness, we were also learning about hypnosis. With hypnosis, we were learning about what hypnosis can be used for, like addiction, sleeping, stress, and IBS. When I saw this in class, alarm bells were going off. I needed to know why hypnosis can be used for IBS. This is when I believe that my ADHD plays the best part in my life. Because the second that I learn about certain information and I need to know more, I'm like a dog with a bone. I cannot let it go. So I went down the rabbit holes, trying to understand why hypnosis helps with IBS. Because if there's one thing that we are taught by the medical profession is that IBS is a dietary problem. I was diagnosed at the age of 23 with IBS. Now, I'm not going to go into the process as to how you get diagnosed with IBS because there's been an awful lot of people who I have met that have claimed to have IBS and they don't because they can't tell me how they got diagnosed. So I'm not going to go into that problem because there's an awful lot of bad people out there who cannot tell me how they've been diagnosed. So I'm not going to go down that route. But when I was diagnosed, not once did a doctor suggest that I see a psychologist. They said that I needed to figure out my diet. Okay, that's absolutely fine. You need to figure out your diet so that you can live a comfortable life. But when you learn what I have learned, the anger is going to get to you. I decided to do a little bit of digging into IBS, and one of the biggest lies in IBS and the medical field is that doctors will say they don't know what causes it.
So we don't really know what causes IBS, but there are several theories that are out there.
This is a lie. They do know what causes it, but will they tell you what it is? Absolutely not.
What you can do is spread false gossip so that people think that everything that's been said is untrue.
Because my mother was so abusive, primarily towards me because I was the scapegoat, and she had picked me as a scapegoat from before I started school. And it's when I started at school, that's when my symptoms started to get an awful lot worse. I've also spoken many times before in the past that your adrenal glands that sit above your kidneys are the ones that release cortisol. If you have an abusive person in your life, cortisol does not stop coming out of those things like goddamn fire hydrants. Cortisol is the ultimate damage to your body. Whether it be your digestive system, your central nervous system, or your reproductive system, cortisol will damage you completely. And in my case, it went straight into my gut, causing a mass amount of pain. How did I get to that conclusion? Because there are so many studies that show that if you have been subjected to a large amount of abuse from a very young age, you are going to develop IBS. IBS is caused by abuse. There are doctors that do not want to tell you this, and I have no idea why. I thought that it was because maybe this is new research. No. This goes back far. This goes back to the 80s. This is actually something that goes back to the early 70s. So this paper is on IBS symptoms and the psychofunctional disturbances versus psychosomatic diseases. This is one of the parts of it. Irritable bowel syndrome is a model of psychofunctional disturbances. They also mention in this that IBS can be linked to narcissistic wounding. I really should use that phrase more often. Narcissistic wounding. So you can look back 40 years and you will find mountains of research over the last few years with multiple scientific evidence proving that abuse causes IBS. The data hasn't changed. There are thousands of research papers over the last 40 years that have got anything to do with IBS. And yet for some strange reason, doctors do not want to tell you that the reason for your IBS is caused from abuse. I have yet to meet a doctor that is willing to say this. This is why I say that doctors are useless. Doctors will lie to you about everything. I genuinely cannot trust a doctor, especially when they've got 40 years of research and not one doctor is going to be able to tell you the truth. But why? The amount of nurses who I meet that when I tell them this theory and I show them the evidence, even they can't believe how obvious the work is. When it comes between doctors and nurses, I'm always going to trust a nurse over a doctor. Always. So when I explain this to nurses, they all say this makes more sense than anything that's written in the medical book. So if that makes more sense, then why isn't it looked at? Why is the common sense not put in there? Do I believe that there is a dietary link to IBS? Oh yeah, wait for it. I am allergic to potato. Yes, get it out of your system. An Irish girl is allergic to potato. Ha ha ha. Growing up in Ireland, that is the staple food of your life. We have potato for breakfast, lunch, dinner, and snacks. So potato is in pretty much everything. Even though I was diagnosed when I was 23, I didn't work out what food was triggering my IBS until I was 33. And that was after I'd done 2 bodybuilding competitions. My second bodybuilding competition, my coach told me that I had to cut out carbs because she wanted me to go on the keto diet. A lot of people are going to have a problem with this, but it was the best diet I've ever been on. I'm not condoning it for everyone. Some people are just insulin sensitive. It was when I started introducing foods again after my second competition that I worked out that I was allergic to potato. Now, since I moved out to Australia, I don't really eat potato all that often. When I first started eating potato here, I was like, it doesn't really taste the same, so I didn't eat it as often. But every time that I did eat it, I didn't actually collate the two because my symptoms weren't that bad. But after competition and having 1 plate of chips, yeah, It hurt. It was very, very painful. I was in agony and I blew up like a balloon. So this is the correlation of having IBS and the foods that you can't eat. My theory is this: whatever food you had during your traumatic event is the food that you're going to be allergic to. When I shared my story and I was learning so much from certain people, I had put in that video that I'm allergic to potato. And so many other people who were saying that they were diagnosed with IBS and they're allergic to pumpkin. Certain cheeses, soft cheese is okay, hard cheese not okay. Certain fruits, if you have IBS and you eat certain foods that will trigger your IBS, I think because the body keeps the score, your body thinks that it is going back to the time that you were being abused. It's just a theory. I brought up this theory with two separate health psychologists. The first health psychologist was at Curtin University and she was lovely and she really, really did admire the fact that I was able to link certain things together. She said it would be wonderful to see it in a research program. Then I said the exact same thing to a health psychologist at the university that I go to now. She was not as nice about it. It's not surprising because if you meet psychology lecturers, they're not all the nicest people. They say that those that can't do teach, and it's more terrifying that they do both. The more shocking thing is the fact that doctors are not willing to actually put those two together and they'll just send you straight to a dietitian who will not be able to help you. Dietitians are also people who I really don't trust either. I don't know too many people in the fitness industry that would ever choose to go to a dietitian. Nutritionists, on the other hand, they're a different breed. I do like nutritionists, I'm not gonna lie. I know quite a few of them and they are pretty wonderful. So you're probably wondering the whole purpose of this video. It is solely to get the message out that we cannot trust what doctors say. I have a mountain, a multitude, I have a titanic amount of information about why we cannot trust doctors. Like this one. And this one. Oh, you best believe I want to take this one down. While we're at it, I know he's not a doctor, but this one here really needs to go. I will be doing something on this guy because I've gone down a rabbit hole on him too, and it's not pretty. All right, guys, I hope some of this has made sense to you. I'm not the best at communicating these sort of stories. This is something that I've been dying to talk about for quite some time. I have now. We can go into further depth with it. Leave comments down below if you have any questions about this, because this is something that I'm very passionate about and we need to start really ripping a whole new one into the health system because I do not trust it. And I have obviously a lot of reasons not to. All right, guys, thank you so much for joining me for this episode of Trauma Pond HQ. If you have enjoyed this episode, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment down below. Say whatever you want. Clearly, I'm already traumatized. All right, guys, thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you next time for another episode of Trauma Pond HQ. Mwah.